The Philadelphia 76ers are currently 2-11 and sit in last place in the Eastern Conference. Now, this offseason, they made so many moves, including signing Paul George over from the LA Clippers. They re-signed Tyrese Maxey and also extended Joel Embiid. And we thought that with this big three, with the majority of the Sixers playoff core from last season returning, that this Sixers team was able to finally take the next leap and hopefully be amongst the Eastern Conference elite teams and even break through to the Eastern Conference final in over 20 years. Well, after an ugly loss to the Miami Heat, where they were up 19 at some point in the game, the Heat were able to rally, and after the game, it was really strange because Joel Embiid was very buddy-buddy with Jimmy Butler, a former Philadelphia 76er, and with this loss, they dropped to 2-11, and Kyle Lowry ordered a players-only meeting, and this was just a time to hash out concerns with the team, the roster, the scheme, whatever have you. In that meeting, Tyrese Maxey got in the face of Joel Embiid, questioning his leadership, his ability to show up to meetings and practices on time, and that's just the basics right there, right? You're the MVP, the leader of this team, but you're not able to even show up to meetings and practices on time? Why is a player that is only 24 so much more mature than you, Joel? Let's not forget that Joel has had many stints of immaturity since entering the NBA. I mean, in the first couple of years when he was missing time due to his various injuries, he made so many more tweets than actually being productive on the court. And even in his rookie year, those tweets continued, and he actually had more tweets than games played in the NBA. Now, obviously, that kind of trickled out to having more play on the court, but still, Joel Embiid's conditioning, his career has been marred by injury, and that all comes back to conditioning, how he eats. I mean, he has a terrible diet according to sources, where he doesn't take himself seriously, and that reflects with countless injuries that he suffered throughout his career. Then you also have the practice component. He doesn't practice hard. He has issues with playing in back-to-backs, and from the fan base perspective, the organization standpoint, the league is becoming frustrated with Joel Embiid. I mean, he used to be this really funny player. He had a lot of aura to him, and I mean, the Sixers front office, they tried to surround him with talent year in and year out. I mean, from 2019, they got Jimmy Butler, they signed JJ Redick, and they still didn't get to the conference finals. In 2022, they bring in James Harden, and then he leaves after a year. In the offseason of 2024, you bring in Paul George, and you still can't get all these pieces to fit together. And again, it starts off with leadership in Joel Embiid. This is his team. He leads by example, but when you're just a part-time player at this point, I mean, let's just be honest, he will never play 65 games in his career just because he won't play in back-to-backs, and when he does, he'll end up getting injured somehow, some way. He's just not a durable player. You know that somehow he'll get injured and then he'll miss extended time. That's just Joel Embiid's player profile at this point. Now, his return to play was further delayed by a suspension issued by the league, where he got into an altercation with Philadelphia Inquirer reporter Marcus Hayes. And I think the report that he published in the Inquirer was totally out of bounds, where he named dead relatives and his son, something I think bringing in family and criticizing a player I think is completely out of bounds in media. So that was 100% valid for at least Embiid to call him out by name. Now, putting hands on somebody is a totally different situation. There are disputed reports whether it was a push or a shove or even a punch was thrown. We just don't know, but either way, I think somehow this suspension was to prevent a lawsuit on the Sixers and Joel Embiid, so that was just somehow to mitigate the situation. But let's just be honest, I mean, Joel Embiid, when he's played on the court, he's been a shell of himself. He doesn't look like himself at all. And the play and the stats reflected. I mean, he's averaging 15 points a game, 6 rebounds on just 32% shooting. And in the loss to Miami, he didn't even get to the free throw line. I mean, this guy has been a sound free throw merchant for much of his career, but failed to do so for the first time since 2017. And the effect is contagious. dangerous. I mean, you have Paul George, who's also in and out of the lineup, but he doesn't play back-to-backs, and his play has been underwhelming as well. He's averaging under 17 points a game and under 40% shooting from the field, and this is a guy that you expected to be the missing piece to the Sixers, but so far, I mean, with you being in and out of the lineup, your co-stars are out due to injury, it's very hard to get chemistry, and you just can't punt on a regular season where that's really how a coach makes their rotation. That's how a team gels and gets connectivity in preparation for the postseason. These are all like the study guides, the reviews that you do before you take a final exam. You just can't wing a final exam without reps, without practice, without going through your offensive sets, knowing the rotations on defense, etc. Right now, I mean, the Sixers are in dire straits at this point. I mean, the only positive that you can think that Sixers fans can smile on is McCain. I mean, McCain has looked like a star so far in this young NBA season. Now, he's doing it against a lot of teams that have had maybe their backups in, but he's gotten some starts and he's looked pretty good in limited action. So maybe he just has played himself into the rotation on a consistent basis. And I mean, that's really the only thing the Sixers really have going for themselves at this point. If you think about just punting on the regular season, what's even the point when you're a lower seed in the Eastern Conference? If you're a 6th seed, I mean, okay, you still don't have home court advantage. And then if you're somehow even in the play-in tournament, I mean, you're a team that has championship aspirations, but you're in the play-in tournament, I mean, that's totally disappointing. You could have been a team that's a top 4 seed, a top 3 seed with just the talent that you have, and now you've given up 11 losses so far, and there's no way you can run the table to get those back. So you're just playing behind the 8 ball, and it's going to probably take until Christmas until the Sixers are even around 500 at this point. So major disappointment and just so much drama around the Sixers already. That was a season that was surrounded by hope and moves in the right direction in the future, but yet again, Joel Embiid's injuries and lack of leadership and maturity have been holding the Sixers back.